we are here to talk about the future. I feel like we've grown up hearing our elders say, history repeats itself. So now that we're talking about the future, I would love to talk about the recent past a bit, which I feel is the best way to learn about the future. And Shannon, I'd like to extend this question to you. From your perspective in large structured organizations, what are the most significant changes that AI has brought to HR functions in such environments in the recent past?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this more holistically, of course, I think I've centered or landed in three primary areas. The first, of course, is just the improved efficiency and the increased capacity that not only HR, but all domains across an organization are going to have. Supporting routine tasks, providing a lot of new intelligence that will enable us to do things faster, of course. I think the second primary area, and I'm really excited about it, is around employee experience. Things will be much more customized, I think curated. Learning is a great example of that. I think more interactive tools, different types of prompting will occur within the flow of work. And so again, I think employee experience is just going to be amplified with AI. And then the last space, which is really exciting, especially from an organizational design standpoint, is that AI really is going to continue to catalyze organizational transformations. I think we've been transforming, of course, post-COVID and all of the other impacts that has brought, has created a wave of change. However, in my mind, AI really is going to break apart the traditional constructs that we've been working under around like these industrial age organizational models, and I think bring us to a place of a blended workforce where you're looking at, humans, machines, and AI, and really shifting the way that we look at talent. And the way that I've been thinking about it recently, even is reimagining this idea of talent management to talent activation, and how can we create more talent agility across the organization. And just maybe the last thing is just it's completely disrupting how we view our workforce. So again, I think that there's two primary areas: employee experience, productivity and capacity, but also just this new way of imagining the organizational systems and structures and the way that we look at talent strategy.
Thank you so much. I think that makes a lot of sense. Hamsa, would you like to chime in on that? Also bringing in your experience with startups. Do you think what is coinciding? Is all of it the same, or are there some things that are going to be different for startups?
Yeah, absolutely. When we think about the nature of just early stage startups, right, that typically have less, than 50 employees, so to speak, especially when they're, seed stage or pre-series A or before any significant amounts of funding, the vast majority of them are usually strapped for resources. They have limited runways and they don't typically have a head of people or a chief people officer in those stages, right? The founders themselves have to fulfill that role of attracting and retaining people while also trying to develop their minimum viable product, going to the market, getting those initial customers. And in most cases, it's people-related issues from which, startups fail to get to the market. Overwhelmingly, it's the people issues. So it could be conflicts between founders, retention issues, especially with technical talent, because the company might not yet have a strong value prop, or et cetera. Like, it could be a myriad amount of reasons. This is where I'm starting to see AI acting as a true partner to founding teams in the early stages, especially for remote first startups. To dive right into what the current HR tech stack looks like, especially in some of my portfolio startups, founders are leveraging tools like text.io to generate, those job descriptions in an optimal way. And for those not familiar, again, text.io is an AI writing enhancement tool specifically designed to create, more effective, inclusive job descriptions. Founders and founding teams are also now able to leverage AI tools like Gusto or Rippling for their HRIS, or 15.5 or Lattice for their performance management tools, and also HireVue for screening resumes, and so on. And ChatGPT is widely used along with Jasper as well as Copy.ai for creating even things like employee handbooks quickly, and so on. So essentially what we're seeing is founders in 2024, they're able to get through the early stages of the startup's life cycle with a minimum viable HR tech stack, without necessarily having that head of people or being able to afford a head of people. It's not perfect, but it's a starting point which saves time and is cost effective in the short term, giving them more space for product and sales, which is what they should be expending most of their energy on, and it's make or break for them at this stage. But there is a tipping point, when the startup reaches 50 plus employees, or when they're in growth mode or hyper growth. That's when these self-serve Gen AI tools start to become a bit limited in terms of scalability. So that's when there's more complex issues in terms of employee relations or strategic planning, team development, org design, culture, so on. So what we want to make sure is that we're seamlessly transitioning from those early stages to the growth stage. So one quick piece of advice I would give to founders when thinking about, again, if you're early stage and you're thinking through your people or talent capability or going from 0 to 1, is to not even think about the technology or AI at all, but rather lead with a process first approach. The first thing founders actually need to be doing is to be aligning on their core values as a company and do a quick, culture storming session on just aligning on what values are more important to them, because that's going to infiltrate who they hire, who they promote, how decisions are made, what the desired employee experience is like, how often you're having performance conversations, and what the power dynamics, look like when you have an org structure. So that will inform, that's going to be informed by your value system. So when there's clarity on the values, only then can they introduce the tech or the AI to align with those processes and operating rhythms, and tools that support the underlying experience that they're intending to create for their burgeoning team. So lead with the values and process first is what I always say, and not the AI, and that way you're in a better position to scale your HR or people processes and infrastructure as you grow along your startup journey, and so on.
So, okay, that's very interesting, because at least for me, what I'm hearing both of you say is that, at least to begin with, for startups, some essential problems that founders would have faced in terms of wanting to be fast-paced are solved quite effectively by AI. And then, of course, when you've already grown a bit, the complexity starts, which has to come with AI. And for larger, already established organizations, it's a lot about revolutionizing what's already happening and taking it one step ahead. When Hamsa spoke about how founders need to really decide on their culture and on their values, Christie, I saw you nodding very energetically, and I know that culture, employee engagement, the people aspect of it is something that's really close to you. So I wanted to just bring in this aspect of employee engagement, where it's all about people and is so deeply intertwined with our most human aspects. How does AI come in there? What must we bring in when it comes to AI, and where do we solely rely on our human intelligence and say, this is where we draw a line, and let's just keep this people only?
Yes, love it. So, hey, everybody. companies work with me to get their culture back on track. And yes, making sure your values are a framework that your employees are using to make decisions with helps them self-govern and avoids a lot of chaos and anarchy. So that's why I was aggressively nodding. But I'm just really excited to explain to you the game-changing effects of having access at your fingertips to do things so much easier and with better quality. I've talked to so many of you over the years, maybe 400 people after, launching my show, Engagement Academy. Some of you know me from Flip Flops and People Ops, my other show, but a lot of you have to deal with a lot of manual, outdated processes, even for yourself. And it's really hard to drive engagement when you yourself are disengaged. But a lot of what drives your own disengagement is the amount of manual work and critical thinking that you can't do because you're constantly interrupted and you're pulled away from the work of changing the business because you're so busy running the business, right? So I want to give you 4 examples that are my favorite that when I work with my clients, I quickly get to the root of what's causing their employees to be disengaged, because I can tell after one conversation, generally, what's it going to take to deliver a better employee experience. But I always leave those clients with, now that you know how to think about troubleshooting your unique culture, I need to show you how to use AI when I'm not here to hold your hand. So here's 4 examples that you can think of today to take with you. You can troubleshoot your internal comms, throw it into ChatGPT, say, hey, everyone, listen, you don't need to learn these fancy prompts. Don't overthink it. You can talk to ChatGPT like your diary or your therapist. Hey, I made this Slack message. I sent this email. Nobody took this survey. Can you help me figure out why? And ChatGPT will very quickly say, oh, you buried the call to action, or you have all this fluff, or let's add in some emojis, or you can even prompt it and say, I know generally what's wrong with this. It's a boring message. Can you help me spruce this up? These are our brand guidelines as a company. And you can very quickly take your writing from a level 2 to a level 10 with the help of AI. It can see very quickly where you can deliver a better message that's more likely to get employees to take action. My favorite use case is speaking revenue to your CEO. I just got back from a founder executive conference where I talked to so many executives about EBITDA and ARR, MRR, how to grow the business, how to scale, how to grow, go, go, go. And nobody was talking about HR. And I would say, what's your relationship with the HR person? And they're like, oh yeah, they're good. I'm like, huh, okay. And so what I'm teaching on my show is how to speak in the language that your executive is more likely to hear you. I know you fall on deaf ears a lot, and it's frustrating when you're asking for budget, or you're trying to get your programs implemented, or get them to believe you that the employees are disengaged. So go into ChatGPT, say, I know we're struggling with this. Help me explain or ask for budget in a way that my executive's more likely to, write me a script, a verbal script I can use when I talk to them next. And you would be amazed how smart ChatGPT is about taking what you say about the people and what the executives say about the revenue and meeting in the middle, because you're both saying the same thing, because the people are what drives the revenue. You both actually want the same stuff, but you need to learn how to speak like an executive, and ChatGPT can help you in a pinch. The 2 other quick examples are writing policies faster, or anything job description wise, anything. Hey, here's a policy that I had, pop it into ChatGPT or any of those similar AI tools. Now I need one for DE&I. Can you quickly use this as a template, and also tell me how I can make it better? How could I improve upon the policy here? And of course, you want to proofread everything. This is not meant to blindly hit go and then just take it as Bible and just run with it. You need to double check your work, but you don't have the time or the brain space to sit there and copy paste and double check and go back and forth. Use AI and ChatGPT to go much faster at the stuff that doesn't, take all your brain power, so you don't waste it. And especially for this last example, when you get your engagement survey results back and it's a hot, angry dumpster fire of negative feedback, and your hair's blown back with, you care so much about these employees, and now you need to go wade through the negative feedback ocean by yourself. Take the qualitative data. Don't put employee numbers in there or employee names. Protect everyone's privacy. Say, these were the questions, these were the answers. Help me identify the patterns. And it will say, oh, you have a management issue. Oh, you have a systems and tools issue. Oh, people feel like they're not getting information they need, or it's not easy to get information. You're protecting your psyche a little bit from feeling like the employees are so upset, and then you can go in and still comb through all the data yourself, but you've sort of already got some kind of guideline to help you go into it not so cold. And it also just helps you summarize, and then you can take, like, again, full circle. Now help me position this to my CEO in a way that they're likely to see this as an opportunity for us to do better and see me as a partner. Write me a script, write me an email, and then write a script for me to say thanks to the employees. So we close the feedback loop. So there's more ways than you think to do the little things in your day-to-day faster, to save energy and protect your psyche and continue doing the work of changing the business, not so much running the business.
I love that. It's very closely related to one of my favorite AI buzzword, which is augmentation. But it's not often, I think, spoken about with from this perspective of keeping your psyche intact and spending your time in places that are important to you and that you're good at. So thank you. Very nuanced answer, Christie. And my next question is to Hamsa. Since we are talking about the future and we're talking about change and AI, just to pull a little bit on your background in organizational psychology and also your experience with change management, how do you think AI is influencing organizational design and transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'd like to piggyback on what Christie mentioned about, again, augmentation, right? Because it's interesting to put AI in the perspective of the context of org design. Because now, in 2024, every company is a tech company. The lines between industries have gradually been blurring. So when we think about the nature of skills and jobs, and in the past, our left brain abilities, that we measured through the IQ, right? Like that was the most reliable predictor of a person's effectiveness on the job. But increasingly what started to happen was, a big part of jobs that required those left sides of our brain, the logical, analytical, quantitative side, that started to get a little more automated. And what became more valuable for us were those skill sets and capabilities that over-index, again, on the right side of our brain, which is the creative, intuitive, the qualitative side, which again, we would measure through things like emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and most recently the adaptability quotient, which is again your ability to be curious, resilient, flexible, agile, be able to solve problems and pivot through changing circumstances. So these have been in the conversation for a while now as a default predictor of success in our new work paradigm. But now, again, in 2024, we're seeing a merger between soft and hard skills. For example, when we think about coding, which has been typically categorized as a hard technical skill, we can now leverage, again, Gen AI like ChatGPT, which can spit out codes if you input the right prompts, right? So with that context, like, is coding now considered a hard skill anymore? So, that's a bit of a gray area. So the lines are blurring again between the technical and non-technical skills. And this requires ambidexterity on our part and integrated skill ecosystem where humans and machines have to coexist with each other to deliver on our intended business outcomes. So when we think about transformation and work that's going through evolutionary transformation, what helps with this transition from your current state to your future state is to create a maturity model, an AI maturity model with, again, if I were to visualize it, a level 1 would, look like maybe your current state is process inconsistencies or incompatible systems or very basic automation and a high level of human involvement for, repetitive tasks that shouldn't really be using your cognitive load. But, you would need to transition to level 2 and 3 and 4, which would be the highest level, which again, where your decisions are made using real-time data is visualized, your systems talk to each other. and they don't operate in a vacuum. You know, your predictive data analytics capabilities are very mature. And there's a cultural shift adopting this new paradigm of operating, and there's human-machine interaction. And that's just how work gets done, right? So that's a goal that we want to get to. So having an AI maturity model that's unique to your current state as a business today helps set those priorities and have a North Star for the future, while also recognizing that we need to meet people where they are today and bring them along their journey as we evolve our processes, our tech stack, and skills in tandem with the changes in our operating rhythm. And, you know, purely from an efficiency standpoint, we've known that, you know, RPA, you know, robotic process automation, that's been well adopted in the org design space for a while now, which, you know, redundant tasks and processes have been automated and digitized, you know, things that have traditionally been owned by a human. So the job impact of this is stronger in companies where, again, they have an industrial era operating system, and the driver behind leveraging that tech is purely for revenue purposes and as a substitution strategy and for headcount reduction and so on. But that's, again, a small proportion of companies in specific sectors like manufacturing. So I would say that we need to tune out the dystopian, you know, doomsday narrative that robots are going to take our jobs and create fear around that, because in reality, it's actually going to create more jobs, again, jobs that require digital acumen. So we need to cut through the noise, align on what problems we're looking to solve for our specific business context, and evolve our processes, tech stack, and digital capabilities and culture to solve those problems.
Yeah, no, perfect. And also thank you for giving suggestions on how to manage change, because we know that change is already happening.